I always enter the Hotel Pfister with a sense of ownership, attributable, I suppose, to the fact that, as a child, I had been allowed to attend its opening. I was at my grandmother's when my uncle and my adored Aunt Anna returned from the preview of the hotel. They were voluble in description of its splendor, whereas my uncle dwelt mostly on the crystal chandeliers and the luxurious furnishings of the lobby with its tessellated floor. My Aunt Anna was carried away by the collection of paintings in ponderous golden frames that hung everywhere in the lobby and corridor. "You know," he said, "this kid ought to see the hotel. It's such a milestone in the city's history. She'll remember it all her days. I'll take her." The streetcar took us to the corner of West Water Street and Grand Avenue. He took my hand in his and we walked up Grand Avenue past Gimbel's and past Chapman's. "There it is," announced my uncle, looking across the street where a large marquee gleamed with light. The lobby was swarming with people. Presently we stopped before a pair of very huge trouser legs. My uncle addressed the owner as Charlie. "You are shaking hands with Mr. Pfister," my uncle said to me. "It is a privilege," I replied clearly. There was a moment of silence, then suppressed laughter from the bystanders. Mr. Pfister, however, bent down a little and said, "The privilege is really mine."
In 1893, at the young age of 6, Hermina Folsky attended the opening of the Hotel Pfister. Years later, she would pen her memories of that grand event, a story she held dear, a lyrical narrative she wanted to share with future generations. The Pfister Hotel, history and story.
I don't think that anyone or anything can exist in 3 centuries, straddling the 19th and the 21st century, without generating stories.
There's just so much tradition, stories, and wonderful memories for everybody who comes there.
It is the Pfister is always a story.
The story of the Pfister Hotel starts long before bricks and mortar, but with a vision by prominent Milwaukee businessman, Guido Pfister. In 1871, Pfister purchased a plot of land on the corner of Wisconsin and Jefferson Streets for the sum of $200. Approached by many who wanted to develop the land, Guido held firm. He envisioned the location as home to a grand hotel in the European tradition.
Guido Pfister was the founder of the Fortune, and his partner Frederick Vogel. Those two were the ones who did the tannery, both from Germany, which was kind of a typical condition in Milwaukee in the 19th century.
In 1883, when a fire destroyed the Newhall House, Milwaukee's original hotel, it became clear there was a need for a grand social center, and discussions began again for a new hotel. In 1888, Guido gave an option on the land, with the understanding that a new hotel company should be organized and a fine hotel built. His death a few months later in 1889 temporarily slowed the work. But his son Charles Pfister, daughter Louise Vogel, and a group of businessmen were dedicated to seeing Guido's dream completed. In reality, they far expanded his vision, more than doubling the original budget. And on May 1st, 1893, the Hotel Pfister opened at a cost of more than $1 million.
The origin of this hotel, just again, that act of civic pride that these businessmen in the 19th century demonstrated in saying, we've lost our grand hotel, we need a new grand hotel. And we need that hotel to be even grander. And we need it not only to be just grander, but it needs to have a Milwaukee signature. So not only are we going to make it as beautiful and as luxurious as any hotel in the world, but we're going to stamp it with Milwaukee in terms of the use of technologies that only we can provide.
Designed by Henry Cook and Herman Esser, the architecture of the hotel was then described as modernized Romanesque, with massive stone structures at the base and graceful ornaments above. The building totaled 8 stories, 200 guest rooms, and featured lavish furnishings throughout. The hotel had its own barbershop, drugstore with soda fountain, and separate lounges with billiards for gentlemen and ladies. Showcasing local businesses and technology, the hotel also boasted groundbreaking features, including fireproofing, electricity throughout the hotel, and thermostat controls in every room.
This hotel had separate heating controls in each guest room. Now that was brand new technology, literally. The thermostat had only been invented in the previous decade by Professor Warren Johnson. But to imagine on the day that the hotel opened, to be able to walk into this hotel and not see any gas fixtures, that was unique, to be purpose-built as an electric property.
The Hotel Pfister was not only a technological marvel, it was also one of the most elegant and magnificent examples of grandeur in the United States. 2 huge bronze lions flanked the Wisconsin street entrance, welcoming guests. The lions, affectionately named Dick and Harry, were a gift of fellow businessman T.A. Chapman, who bought them for $1,500 while in Rome. Upon entering, the imposing lobby with its 4-story glass ceiling, marble columns, glittering chandeliers, and a grand staircase rose up as if to say, "You have arrived." So important was the hotel opening, an original musical score was written by Alfred Holtz to pay tribute to the Grande Dame herself. Unfortunately, within 4 days of the splendid opening celebration, the stock market crashed, plunging the country into the worst depression it had ever experienced. However, in 1894, a Republican delegate convention helped revive the hotel, filling it to capacity and establishing the Pfister as the venue for official functions and political events.
Charles himself was a really active political figure and kind of a kingmaker in the Wisconsin Republican Party. So this would have been in many ways a political salon as well.
From very early on, the hotel played host to visiting dignitaries who made the Pfister their Milwaukee address. In 1899, the Pfister became the Western White House when President McKinley loaded his family and his cabinet to come to Milwaukee for an event. Every president since McKinley has stayed at the hotel, and dozens of historical moments have unfolded within the Pfister's walls.
Former President William Howard Taft got the word that World War II ended right in this hotel. He was sleeping just 2 floors above us in the presidential suite when reporters came bounding in that door over there and ran up the stairs to get his first impressions. Essentially, what they got from him was, what's going on? In that same room, John F. Kennedy got the word that he was not going to be handed the nomination for the president for the Democratic Party without a fight. He had thought that if he could sew up Wisconsin, he could essentially coast to the convention. And Hubert Humphrey made a strong enough showing that they knew at the end of that night that they had a slog ahead of them.
Over the course of its history, the hotel has gone through many renovations, including a major remodeling in 1926. Among the most striking changes that year was the replacement of the lobby skylight with a golden vaulted ceiling. The area that once housed the Turkish baths in the lower level of the hotel was also remodeled into a cozy pub named the English Room. The hotel was dubbed the New Pfister, and a new chapter began when Charles Pfister turned over the keys to his protege, Ray Smith. Smith had a long history with the hotel. In 1896, he began as a bellboy, quickly worked his way up to key clerk, cigar counter manager, and ultimately hotel manager. The hotel remained in the Smith family for more than 2 decades. In 1957, the Smith family sold the Pfister to Field Hotels, after which it changed hands several times to out-of-state investors who didn't treat it particularly well. Then, in 1962, hotel ownership returned to Milwaukee when local businessman Ben Marcus purchased it out of bankruptcy and saved it from demolition.
I was blessed with a good sense of logic, I think. A combination of being conservative and maybe a little daring with it. A lot of confidence in my decisions. Once I made a decision, I felt real good about it. Anxious to implement it, anxious to get going and doing it. I think those are the things that really spurred me on.
And my father said one day, well, why don't you go down and, size it up, see what's going on there, kind of watch over it while we think about how we're going to organize it to going forward and start talking about the addition that we wanted to put on it. And the very first morning, couldn't have been an hour after I got at the desk, there's a knock at the door, and I come in, and it's a young lady, and I said, can I help you? And she said, yes, can you tell me what rooms to clean today? And I said, why are you asking me? Don't you have a housekeeper? Well, we did, but she quit this morning. And I thought to myself, welcome to the hotel business.
When the Marcuses bought it, it was really tremendous because what they did, they not only revived the Pfister, more important, I think they revived a lot of life in Milwaukee.
The Marcus family saw an opportunity to restore a historic landmark and undertook a massive $7 million renovation, 7 times the cost of the original building. The renovation also saw the addition of a 185-room, 23-floor tower designed by architect Robert Roche.
The tower renovation goes back to actually 1962, even 61, before they actually made the offer, before Ben became the receiver for the property in foreclosure. And they knew, you have to remember, this 62 is before the preservation movement, so they really were ahead of the curve. 1970 is about when people are starting to pay attention to older buildings. So he saw the potential here, but he also realized in the market at the time, it would be very difficult to kind of sell just the old. So he needed kind of a state-of-the-art, cutting-edge new facility as well. And the challenge became to kind of marry those two. And that's what the tower was designed to do.
The top floor of the tower opened as the Crown Room and boasted spectacular views of Milwaukee. Quickly becoming the most popular nightclub in the city, the Crown Room showcased some of the most well-known entertainers of the day, including Joan Rivers, Henny Youngman, and Frankie Avalon. The renovation set the stage for yet another new chapter to begin. Rosemary Steinfest, who began as Ben Marcus's assistant, was named general manager for the Pfister, becoming one of the first female GMs in the U.S. And the Pfister became the 17th property in the United States to be accepted for membership in the prestigious Preferred Hotels and Resorts.
And there I was with all the Preferred Hotel general managers and myself. It was a man's world, and from time to time, it wasn't easy, but I stood my ground.
Under Steinfest's watch, the Pfister became home to every Major League Baseball team and continued to welcome celebrities and rock stars. Fans never knew who they might catch a glimpse of in the Pfister lobby.
Elvis Presley was booked. He had a certain kind of bacon flown in and had to be cooking at all times while he was in the building. It was just like a presidential visit. He's 5 minutes away, he's 10 minutes away. So he was supposed to get off on the 4th floor, but the press was there. So we went up to the 6th floor, and he got out of the limo with his black suit on, with his cuffs, long cuffs, and he had a drink in his hand. And I after a week's work of planning the whole thing and doing all the housing assignments and everything, I took him up to the floor, and he said to me, "Thanks a lot, baby."
In 1976, the Pfister's lobby was renovated. A cocktail lounge known as the Columns had years before been carved out of the main lobby. Plastered walls covered the original marble and fireplace, destroying much of the majesty of the space, until the renovation uncovered the grand open lobby once again.
Some new trends were just starting out. The idea of the lobby itself as an assembly place for people, that they didn't want to just check in and go to their room right away or to their meeting right away, that they wanted to have a place where they could gather or just go by themselves, but be around others.
During the lobby renovation, the original marble floor, which had been covered by carpeting, was discovered to be completely crushed. The only marble able to be salvaged was located directly in front of the lobby fireplace. That marble remains visible today. The celebrated English room was also updated that same year, with the addition of plush red carpet, Windsor chairs, warm lighting, and massive booths.
The English room was the fine dining restaurant in the basement of the Pfister. There was food prepared tableside with a maitre d', and it was a very formal atmosphere, but it was right for the time, and it was a great restaurant. And it said it was sort of every event, every important event was here.
In 1988, in anticipation of the hotel's upcoming centennial celebration, an unprecedented 5-year renovation began, demonstrating the Marcus family's continued commitment to maintaining the Pfister's grand stature. The guest rooms were completely updated, along with all the plumbing, electrical wiring, and heating and air conditioning for the nearly 100-year-old building. The lobby ceiling also got a makeover to its now well-known and oft-photographed fresco. The mural by Conrad Schmidt Studios of Milwaukee took inspiration from a painting which was part of the hotel's dedication 100 years earlier.
Because it feels like you're just in Paris and you're in Moscow and you're in these beautiful hotels that are 400 and 500 years old. And to find one at 120 years old in this pristine condition in the United States just takes people back to a different place.
Upon entering the historic hotel, guests are also greeted by a grand marble staircase and priceless works of Victorian art. Ironically, after purchasing the hotel, the Marcus family would later learn that the art collection was worth more than the hotel itself. The collection includes oil paintings, sculptures, and bronzes by a variety of German, French, Italian, and American artists.
It's a substantial collection. It numbers in around 80 pieces. And there are certainly some remarkable paintings in the collection. It spans a broad cross-section of the styles that were popular at that time.
The pieces are woven into the very fabric of the hotel, displayed in every public area, a nod to Guido Pfister's desire to build a palace for the people.
The life that art can give a hotel. Too often you can walk into a hotel and it's rooms and corridors, and they may look nice, but it doesn't have soul. And art will give your hotel soul, will give your property, whether it's a hotel or anything, it gives your property soul. It's a lot of things. It's about how people take care of you, but it's also about the environment that you're in and what surrounds you.
In 2009, the Pfister expanded its support for the arts with the creation of an Artist in Residence program, one of the first of its kind in the United States. On a daily basis, guests interact and witness the evolution of artwork firsthand.
Being here for an entire year gave me the opportunity and forced me to look at the Victorian composition and how relevant it might be to my work in contemporary. So it was a blast being around these works of art consistently.
Much of the Pfister art collection is showcased on the 7th floor, which also houses the hotel's stunning ballrooms and meeting space. Just as it was when it opened, the Pfister is still the preeminent location for all of Milwaukee's social events. Known for its culinary excellence and gracious service, thousands of business functions, galas, weddings, and celebrations have been held there.
Every Pfister bride is the only Pfister bride. So when you come into the Imperial Ballroom and you look up and you see the beautiful painted ceilings, and then you say, I'm going to be married here one day, in whatever age, and you come in and you walk down that aisle and you say, this is my daughter, and I was married here, now my daughter's married here. We see people back then for the 1st anniversary, the 10th anniversary, the 30th, the 50th, the 75th anniversary.
Many a bride recalls her first dance under the glittering chandeliers of the Imperial Ballroom. Those moments become tradition for many, like the Papa George family. In 1958, George and Anastasia started their life together at the Pfister as they celebrated their wedding. They would return again and again for their 25th and 50th anniversaries, as well as their daughter's wedding. To them, it is unthinkable to celebrate an important event anywhere but the Pfister.
And we had our wedding at 7 o'clock in the evening at church, and a beautiful reception here afterwards. At our 30th anniversary, our kids also gave an anniversary party for us, and it was held in the Imperial Room. Hopefully our granddaughter finds a nice young man so that we can have the reception here.
Today, the Pfister Hotel continues to be reinvented and continues its dedication to excellence. If you had frozen the hotel in amber in 1893, the Pfister Hotel would be a beautiful jewel for all to admire. But the Pfister is more than a place built of bricks and mortar. It is a collection of moments with its own vocabulary. It is that rare building that managed to remain relevant while still embracing its history.
The Pfister is still a place where marvelous things happen.
It's a beautiful building with tremendous investment, and it's been kept up well. The second is the history. The history of this hotel. Who's been here? The presidents, the rock stars, the musicians, all the people who have come here have combined with the structure to give it this incredible history. And then finally, it's the people that are here and the memories we create. We are in a business of creating memories. That's all you get when you leave this hotel is a memory. And you get a great one when you leave the Pfister.
Hermina Folsky, a child at the time of the Pfister's opening in 1893, would prophetically capture the importance of this grand hotel. In her journal, she concludes with one wish.
I have mourned the passing of many of the inimitable landmarks of old Milwaukee, but I fervently pray that he will leave us yet a while the Hotel Pfister.
The Pfister Hotel